5 signs you're dealing with an evil person. Stoicism. Part 1. Introduction. Recognizing the truth. In life, we're often taught to believe in the good, to believe that everyone has a kind side, that everyone deserves a chance. That belief isn't wrong, but it isn't enough. Because here's a powerful truth that few dare to admit. Not everyone who enters your life brings something good. Some people come with a warm smile, sweet words and gestures that make you feel seen, feel chosen. But behind that kindness lies a well-hidden ego, subtle manipulation, and an energy that silently erodes your inner peace day by day. They don't hurt you with clear wounds. They don't cause you pain like those who've openly betrayed you. Instead, they make you doubt yourself, slowly lose your boundaries, and begin to believe, maybe it's my fault. Do you truly know who's standing next to you? Have you ever experienced this feeling? You share something from your heart and are mocked. You feel exhausted, but they say you're being dramatic. You succeed, and they don't congratulate you, maybe even fall into an eerie silence. You say no once, and they grow cold or withdraw completely. If you constantly find yourself adjusting who you are to avoid conflict, performing just to keep peace, or always feeling like you are the problem, then chances are you're being manipulated without even realizing it. Why must we identify toxic people? Many people believe that if you simply let things slide and don't react, you'll be fine. But that's dangerous. Toxic people don't need to shout or hit you to cause harm. They only need to stay close long enough, be just manipulative enough, and persist just enough to make you doubt your self-worth, shrink you within your relationships, make you lose faith in integrity, kindness, and humanity. What's most damaging isn't what they do. It's the state of mind they put you in. You become afraid to speak up. You lose trust in your own intuition. You constantly think, maybe I'm just too sensitive. That's a silent destruction, and it's incredibly dangerous. Why don't we recognize them sooner? Toxic people don't show up looking violent. They come with listening eyes. They tell stories about past pain to elicit sympathy. They say things like, I just want what's best for you. You're truly special to me. They don't appear as villains. They appear as victims, friends, ideal lovers, kind people. At first, society also makes it hard to tell. We're taught to be patient, compassionate, forgiving. But sometimes showing compassion to a toxic person is cruelty to yourself. Why you need to keep reading this. You don't need to cut off every relationship just because someone isn't perfect. You don't need to become suspicious of everyone either. But you do need to know who is gradually harming you. You need the language to name what you're feeling. You need tools to recognize the right people. And you need the wisdom to respond with reason, not emotion, yet with full strength. Stoicism, your companion in reason and integrity. Stoicism doesn't teach you to be angry, judgmental, or vengeful. It doesn't make you closed off, paranoid, or bitter. On the contrary, this philosophy shows you how to stay centered, think clearly, and respond appropriately. You cannot control others, but you can control how you respond. Epictetus. A Stoic doesn't retaliate. They don't suppress their anger either. They observe, assess, and choose their actions from a calm, deliberate state. Peace does not come from everyone being kind to you. Peace comes from knowing who belongs and who belongs outside your boundary. Marcus Aurelius, Practical Wisdom. In summary, we live in a world where toxic people are no longer easy to recognize. They don't carry knives. They carry gentle words. They don't threaten. They quietly guide you into the cage they've built. And you, the kind-hearted one, are the perfect target for their manipulation. That's why recognizing toxic people isn't a choice. It's a survival skill. Sign 1. Charming but controlling. They show up like a refreshing breeze in a dry desert. They know how to listen, joke at the right time, say what you want to hear, even before you say it. They make you laugh, make you feel special, understood. At first, they seem like the one you've been waiting for, the ideal lover, the soulmate, the inspiring boss. But then, things start to change, slowly, subtly, and vaguely. Rise from charm to control. At first they ask, "Who are you with?" Spoken with concern. Later, "Why are you with that person?" "I told you they're not right for you." At first they say, "You look good in anything." Later, "I don't think you should wear that outside. It doesn't look appropriate." Without you noticing, concern turns into imposition. You begin to self-censor. You find yourself explaining more, apologizing more, and gradually you stop being yourself. They always want to be the center. Charming but controlling people have a deep need. They must be the focus. They must lead. They can't stand not controlling the situation or people. You'll notice they interrupt others to say their piece. Always have a bigger story when you share something. Turn conversations into personal stages. What's tricky is they do this gracefully, making it hard to call them out. But if you observe long enough, you'll notice they dominate every emotional space. Subtle belittling, no aggression needed. They don't insult you openly. They're just joking. They're giving helpful advice. They're just being blunt. But behind every word you feel a little smaller, a little less confident, a little more afraid to voice your opinion. They might say, "You really are overly emotional." Come on, don't exaggerate. It's a small matter. But repeated enough, you'll start believing your emotions are a problem, your opinions don't matter, and your presence needs to be filtered before you show up. Fake care, disguised control. There is a type of control that's most subtle, wrapped in the guise of love. This person doesn't yell at you. They want what's best for you. They're just worried. But in truth, they want to control your choices, behaviors, and relationships. They want to know where you go, who you meet, what you wear, what you say, what you think. And if you stray from their script, they become cold, sulky, or withdraw affection as silent punishment. And what did Epictetus say about this? Do not let outer charm obscure your reason. Epictetus. A Stoic does not judge someone for being attractive or confident, but they observe real behavior, verify with reason, and don't get swept away by initial emotion. You need to ask yourself, does this person respect my personal space? Do they let me be myself? Do I feel like I'm shrinking or growing in around them? If the answer is shrinking, it's a sign you're under the influence of a charming but toxic person. Real-life examples. A controlling lover disguised as care. Lon once dated a man she believed was destiny. He was classy, educated, thoughtful, but after a few months he began to say she shouldn't hang out with old friends because they don't fit her new lifestyle. Urge her to quit her job because he worried about her stress. Suggest she move closer to his house for easier care. Gradually, Lan lost her friends, her job, and her autonomy. She was in love, but had lost herself. A friendly boss, who manipulates Tuan, worked at a startup. His boss was initially friendly, often invited him for coffee, confided in him, and seemed fair. But after a few months, Tuan realized every decision was a suggestion from the boss, and he had no right to say no. If he disagreed, he got the cold shoulder. If he took his lunch break on time, he was told he lacked dedication. If he requested time off, the boss would coincidentally remind him of past favors. Tuan understood. That initial closeness wasn't friendship. It was a strategy of control. What to do when you meet someone like this? 1. Don't be fooled by charm. Charisma isn't the same in kindness. 2. Observe behavior, not just words. 3. Acknowledge your feelings. Are you growing or shrinking? 4. Set boundaries early. Not to fight, but to protect your identity. Remember, a Stoic isn't afraid of charm, but they never let it cloud their clarity. Sign 2. Lack of empathy, the invisible wound. If you've ever sat across from someone and poured your heart out, shared something you've carried for a long time, and all you received in return was a shrug, a joke, or a blank stare, then you know what it means to encounter a lack of empathy. What is empathy? Empathy is not simply understanding someone intellectually. It is the ability to put yourself in another's position, to feel their pain, their joy, their hurt, or their hope, as if it were your own. Empathy doesn't require advice. It doesn't need solutions. Sometimes a nod, a hand held, or a fully present silence is all it takes to begin healing. And in today's busy world where everyone wants to be heard, someone who listens with the heart is far more precious than someone who speaks well. So what about those who lack empathy? They're not overtly malicious. They don't yell at you or humiliate you publicly, but they don't care how you feel. You're tired, they say, everyone's tired. You're sad, they say, don't be so dramatic. Mock your pain. You share a story of betrayal. They laugh. Come on, everyone's been through that. Relax. You open up about emotional hurt. They say, you're probably imagining it. Never celebrate your wins. When you achieve something, they stay silent. Worse, they say things that minimize your success. Just lucky. Probably someone let you win. And when someone else praises you in their presence, you notice their forced smile, cold tone, or a flash of envy that disappears as quickly as it appears. The consequences of lacking empathy. You may not notice it at first, but over time, you begin to feel invisible, lose the desire to share your true self. Constantly monitor your emotions before expressing them. You become a filtered version of yourself before entering any conversation. You stay silent because you don't want to seem weak or be a burden. And worse, you start to believe that you don't deserve to be heard, that you don't deserve to be truly cared for. This is a wound without blood, not as obvious as criticism, but it silently hurts you every single day. What did Marcus Aurelius say? We are part of a community. To harm others is to harm yourself. Marcus Aurelius. To a Stoic, there's no such thing as each person living their own life. We are all part of the collective human whole. Every action we take, no matter how small, impacts the spiritual fabric around us. When you are indifferent to someone's pain, you are not just cold, you are breaking the human connection we all depend on. Stoicism does not glorify extreme emotions, but it holds virtue above all, and compassion is a non-negotiable part of virtue. Compassion is not weakness. Many misunderstand. Empathy equals softness. That strong people don't need empathy, only reason. A Stoic would disagree, because reason without compassion equals cruelty. Compassion without reason equals vulnerability to manipulation. But when combined, you gain strong-hearted strength. And that is what a true practitioner of Stoicism aims for. So questions for self-reflection. If you suspect someone in your life lacks empathy, ask yourself, 1. When I'm sad, are they there? Or do they avoid me? 2. When I share something sensitive, how do they react? 3. When I succeed, do they celebrate or secretly compete? 4. Can I be my unfiltered self around them? 5. Do they truly listen or just wait for their turn to speak? Key real-life example. The friend who's never wrong, had a close friend named Mai from college. Mai was bubbly and cheerful, but whenever shared something painful, Mai would dismiss it or change the subject. When broke up with her boyfriend, Mai said, "You're so weak, others go through worse." When got promoted, Mai commented, "Probably just because the boss likes you. It's not like you're better than others." Over time, found silence more comforting than sharing, and she realized, Mai never truly empathized. She was only a friend when it was convenient. What to do when facing someone like this? 1. Don't expect them to change. People who lack empathy often don't realize it or don't care that they hurt others. 2. Don't downplay your emotional needs to keep them comfortable. You deserve to be understood. 3. Maintain emotional distance. No need to cut ties, but limit how much you share and what you expect. 4. Seek healthier connections. Find those who genuinely listen. It's essential for healing. In summary, a lack of empathy doesn't cause immediate pain, but it corrodes your inner self like silent acid. A Stoic does not let emotion control them, but they are never indifferent to human suffering, because we live together not to live for each other, but to live better together. Stoic principle. Sign 3. Subtle manipulation. Control that makes no noise. Some wounds are visible. Some criticisms can be confronted. But there is a form of attack you don't realize is harming you, because it comes too gently, too cleverly, too reasonably. This is subtle manipulation, manipulative behavior, not overt control. Manipulators don't force you to do things through brute strength. They use something stronger: language, psychology, and emotion. Here are the tactics they commonly employ. Check 1. Gaslighting, making you doubt yourself. Gaslighting is a form of manipulation that gradually erodes your trust in your own memory, perception, and emotions. You recall a deeply emotional conversation, but they say, "I never said that." you're imagining things. You feel hurt by their behavior and they respond. You're always overly sensitive. No one else sees a problem, just you. You begin asking yourself, am I overthinking this? Am I being unfair to them? Am I going crazy? Eventually, you stop trusting yourself and only believe how they see you. 2. Using guilt as a weapon. Manipulators excel at using words to make you feel guilty, even when you've done nothing wrong. If you really cared, you wouldn't have done that. I sacrificed so much for you, and this is how you treat me. They bring up the past, what they did for you, endured for you, gave you chances. You end up feeling a mix of gratitude and debt. You no longer feel free to say no. You can't tell the difference between your free will and subtle coercion. You become a spiritual debtor in a contract that was never signed. 3. Conditional praise, a tool for control. Not all manipulators use pressure. They may compliment you often, but the praise always comes with conditions. You're amazing when you're with me and don't hang out with others. I like you best when you don't overreact. At first, these may sound harmless, but over time, you'll realize the compliments always carry expectations. And when you don't meet them, affection is withdrawn, the praise vanishes, and so might their presence. You start living in fear of displeasing them without realizing you no longer live for yourself. See what you feel and why it's dangerous when you're being subtly manipulated. You may feel confused and disoriented, struggle to explain to others, because they didn't really do anything wrong. Lose your bearings on what's right, wrong, enough, or too much. Believe you are the problem instead of their behavior. Gradually lose confidence, inner voice, and the ability to say no. This isn't control through force. This is psychological warfare, where you lose yourself without knowing you've been attacked. What Stoicism teaches about manipulation: guard the fortress of your inner mind. Foundational principle of Stoicism. In every relationship, Stoics do not seek to control others, and they do not allow others to invade the sanctuary of their own minds. Others may say what they like, but don't let them cause you to lose yourself. Epictetus. You cannot stop someone from trying to manipulate you, but you can recognize their tactics and refuse to react the way they want you to. Real-life examples. The friend who keeps reminding you of emotional debts. Thou had a close friend, Vi, who once helped her through a difficult time, but later Vi constantly used the past to make Thou obey. If I hadn't helped you back then, how would you have even survived? Now that you've had a little success, you forget who lifted you up. Thou began to feel indebted to Vi. She reluctantly followed Vi's plans, accepted her control, just to avoid feeling guilty, until she realized true help is never an excuse for bondage. The partner who makes you think you're too sensitive. Bin loved a charming, articulate man, but every time she raised a concern or shared a hurt feeling, he'd say, "You're always overanalyzing." "I was just joking. You're taking this too seriously." Bin began to go quiet. She wrote down what hurt her, then tore it up. She told herself, maybe I really am too sensitive. She stopped trusting her own feelings. And that is more dangerous than any argument. What to do when facing this kind of person? 1. Recognize it. That's the first step. They'll never say, "I'm manipulating you." You have to learn to read the behavior. 2. Write down your experience. When you start doubting yourself, document the situation as you remember and feel it before it gets reframed. 3. Check in with your inner truth. Am I living in alignment with my values? Do I feel free or bound by a sense of debt? 4. Set clear boundaries. Now, you don't need to be angry. Just say, "I understand that's how you feel, but I feel differently, and I need my emotions to be respected." Summary: subtle manipulation is a toxic force disguised as kindness. It uses your trust to control you from within. The Stoic is not fooled by sweet words because they hold the torch of reason against all emotional games. You can't control the manipulator, but you can refuse to play the role of the victim. And that is the power of a free mind. Sign 4. Slow control when freedom is stolen without notice. Not every controlling person yells at you. Not all coercion comes from shouting, commands, or force. One of the most dangerous forms of control is silent, gradual, and disguised as care. It's when control wears the mask of concern. They don't say, "You must do as I say." They say, "Can you give me your password so I can help check for you? I don't like you hanging out with that group. They seem like a bad influence. Your family interferes too much. If you live near me, you'll have more freedom." You listen, and it sounds reasonable. You think, "They care about me," but you won't realize that, bit by bit, you're surrendering your personal freedom. Honor signs of silent control. This type of control doesn't crash in like a tsunami. It seeps in like a slow leak. Here are the subtle but clear signs. Requesting access to private spaces. They ask for your phone, social media, or email passwords. At first, it's for convenience, to build trust, but later it becomes checking histories, reading messages, scanning emails. Any refusal is seen as dishonest or suspicious, interfering with your social relationships. They criticize your friends. They're all negative. They tell you to avoid someone. "I don't like the way they look at you." They comment on your family. "Your parents seem to control you too much." Gradually, you stop seeing friends, share less with family, and they become your only connection, cutting you off from support systems. Control is most effective when the victim is isolated. Once you're disconnected from friends, family, and trusted colleagues, you lose objective perspectives, struggle to distinguish right from wrong, and have no one to lean on when things get suffocating. Why is this kind of control so dangerous? Because it doesn't hurt clearly. So you don't know you're being harmed, because it's disguised as love, care, or responsibility. The more lenient you are, the more they push. The more you comply to keep peace, the more you get smothered. And the most dangerous part, you start believing that a controlled life is normal. You fear saying no because you fear losing affection, triggering anger, or creating conflict. You start asking for permission just to meet a friend, visit your parents, or go out alone. What do Stoics say about freedom? True freedom is not being ruled by anything except your own reason. Epictetus. Stoicism doesn't define freedom as doing whatever you want. Freedom, according to Epictetus, is the ability to live according to your values without being imposed upon manipulated, or led by emotions or others. A Stoic protects their inner freedom like a fortress. They're willing to reject anything that threatens their independence of thought, feeling, or behavior. Signs you're being silently controlled. Ask yourself, do I need to ask permission to do what feels right to me? Do I feel guilty when I don't do what this person wants? Am I losing connection with friends and family? Do I fear that being my true self will cost me their affection? If the answer is yes to many, you are not free. You are being controlled. Real life example, Lynn's story. When love became a prison, Lynn fell in love with a man who seemed perfect. He was attentive, polite, and always gave detailed advice. But after 6 months, she noticed he didn't like her eating with male colleagues. He felt hurt if she visited her mom without informing him. He suggested she quit her job because the office had too many temptations. At first, Lynn gave in. She thought, he loves me, that's why. But gradually she realized she had no friends, no job, and no voice. That love was no longer a safe place. It had become a psychological prison painted over with concern. What to do when you realize you're being controlled. 1. Reestablish clear boundaries. You don't need to start a fight. You just need to affirm your autonomy. Examples. You don't need my password. If you trust me, it's unnecessary. I'm seeing my friends today. I need connections outside this relationship. 2. Reconnect your support network. Reach out to family, old friends, and trusted colleagues. Isolation weakens you. Don't let it last. 3. Clarify your personal values. I have the right to think and act based on what I believe is right. I don't need to change who I am just to keep someone. 4. Seek therapy if needed. If you feel unable to break free, don't hesitate to consult a psychologist. They won't save you, but they'll help light the way. Summary control isn't always loud or obvious. It can come as overconcern, intrusive goodwill, or conditional love. And if you're not alert, you'll lose your freedom without realizing it. A Stoic does not live to please others. They live to stay true to themselves, in autonomy, integrity, and reason. You don't need permission to be yourself. Marcus Aurelius, Adapted Thought. Sign 5. Systematic lying. When truth is lost in sweet words, there are people who don't just lie when necessary. They lie as a survival instinct. They fabricate stories, rewrite the past, blur truth and fiction so thoroughly that the listener no longer knows what's real. And they don't lie merely to hide. They lie to control, to influence, to build a perfect version of themselves that doesn't truly exist. Not just little lies, but a whole system of deception. We've all told lies. A white lie to avoid conflict, a soft answer to keep the peace. But systematic liars are different because, 1, they lie about unnecessary things. You ask them something minor, and they make something up. No clear reason. Lying has simply become a habit. They claim to have held higher positions than they actually did. They boast of connections to famous people. They talk about major life events. That never happened. These lies don't always bring obvious gain. They serve to build an image, as if they're playing a role written just for them. 2. They mix truth with fiction. This is a subtle technique. 70% truth plus 30% embellishment. creates a version that feels verifiable, but never really is. They tell a partially true story and add sympathy-inducing details. They omit inconvenient facts and only share what makes them look trustworthy. They reinterpret events in the version most favorable to them. You want to believe them because much of what they say is true, but something feels off, incomplete, unclear, not fully honest. 3. They construct a false persona. The kind person in front of you who speaks ill of you behind your back. The moral figure in public who secretly violates private trust. The victim in every situation, so you always see them as right, pitiful, and in need of sympathy. Over time, they make you doubt your own integrity because somehow they always seem right while you constantly question yourself. The consequences of continuous lying. You no longer know what's real and what's false. You start doubting your own memory, judgment, and intuition. You feel you've overreacted, judged unfairly, or lack compassion. You fall into emotional dependence because only they seem to hold the truth. Relationships with systematic liars easily become toxic cycles. Trust breaks. You try to verify. You get blamed for being suspicious. You feel more insecure, but don't dare to leave. You become the protector of the very person who is hurting you. Stoic philosophy on truth. To live according to nature is to live truthfully. Marcus Aurelius Stoics choose to face the truth, even when it's unpleasant, because they understand every solid foundation in friendship, love, community, and the self must be built on honesty. They don't use words to decorate, to avoid conflict, or to please. They speak truth, live honestly, and accept the consequences because we cannot control how others judge us, but we can control the sincerity within ourselves. Epictetus, paraphrased. They're real-life examples, a partner who always hides the past. I met a very charming woman. She said she had lived abroad and had endured many heartbreaks. But as they grew closer, we noticed she avoided talking about her family. A friend once said she used to lie about her job. Some events she mentioned didn't match up in time. When he asked, she reacted sharply. If you don't trust me, then forget it. You're always scrutinizing me. I feel insulted. He began to think he was just paranoid, but deep down he knew. He wasn't wrong. He just had no truth left to believe in. A coworker who spreads false narratives to sabotage others. Lon worked in a highly competitive department. A colleague named Kay always seemed friendly and cheerful, but slowly. Kay told the manager that Lan was often late. Kay spread misinformation that Lan missed deadlines. Kay claimed the team thought Lan was not a team player. These were all half-truths, half-fabrications, impossible to verify. But bit by bit, they damaged Lan's reputation. She couldn't respond because Kay always denied subtly, always acted with good intentions. But in the end, Lan's career, reputation, and confidence suffered deeply. What should you do when facing a systematic liar? 1. Trust your sense of unease. If something always feels off, don't ignore it. Logic can be persuaded, but your intuition often senses what your mind can't yet explain. 2. Check for consistency. Take notes, confide in someone you trust, or track details. Truth remains constant, but lies often contradict themselves. 3. Maintain mental distance. You don't have to confront them immediately. Just stay mentally clear. Don't dissolve your emotions into their story. Choose truth. Even if it's hard, you may have to accept. This person isn't who you thought they were. This relationship isn't worth continuing. But bitter truth still protects your self-worth more than sweet deception ever could. Summary lying is not just a wrongful act. It's a fracture that breaks the foundation of trust, connection, and inner peace. Stoics do not live in illusion. They choose to see the truth, accept it, and act with integrity, even when it costs them. Truth isn't meant to please. It's meant to steady the soul. Marcus Aurelius, paraphrased. Responding, setting boundaries, and protecting yourself. Once you've identified the toxic individuals in your life, the next question is, what should I do? Retaliate, withdraw, endure silently? The Stoic answer is neither anger nor surrender. It is set boundaries, clearly, calmly, and rationally. Our boundaries are not aggression, they are your ultimate defense. One of the biggest misconceptions is, if I set boundaries, they'll think I'm selfish. If I'm firm, I'll lose that person. If I protect myself, I'm the bad one. The truth is, you cannot build a healthy life without boundaries. Boundaries are the fences that protect your peace, your values, and your dignity. They are not meant to punish, but to keep you from being violated. You cannot control others, but you can control what you allow. How to set effective boundaries. 1. Be clear and direct. Don't beat around the bush. Don't rely on hints or create situations hoping they'll understand. Speak straight, speak truthfully, and say enough. Examples. I don't feel comfortable when you speak to me that way. I want to be respected. I don't agree to share my password. That's my private space. I'll leave this conversation if the tone continues to escalate. 2. Be neutral, unapologetic. You don't need to get angry, and you don't need to apologize for protecting yourself. You have the right to say no without explaining or smoothing things over. Not, sorry, I just don't feel comfortable. But I'm not comfortable. I choose not to participate. Guided by Stoic philosophy, true strength is self-mastery. No one can harm you unless you allow it. Epictetus. Stoics do not let others dictate their emotional state. They choose to live by principles, not by impulse. Setting boundaries is an act of someone who knows their worth and refuses to let others redefine it. You don't need to shout. You just need to stand firm, still, and unshaken. What to do if your boundaries are challenged when you begin to assert limits? Some people may pressure you. Why are you acting different? Threaten you. If you keep this up, who knows what will happen? Guilt you. You hurt me by doing this. Shame you. We're friends. Do we really need boundaries? But remember this. Anyone who makes you feel guilty for protecting yourself does not deserve a place in your safe space. Effective boundaries don't depend on whether others accept them. They depend on whether you hold them. Strengthen your inner phalanx, your resilient support system. In ancient Greek warfare, soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder in a phalanx, shields touching, forming a wall. Life needs something like that too. You need a healthy community, supportive friends, respectful family, an environment that uplifts rather than belittles. Stay close to those with whom you can be fully yourself without needing to be on guard. Self-care is how you fortify your core. Get enough sleep. Eat nourishing food. Stay physically active. Meditate or journal. It may sound simple, but this is the everyday Stoic discipline. A strong body is the foundation of a steady, unshakable mind. Know when it's time to walk away. Not all boundaries will be respected. Some people will never change. The more you fight to keep them in your life, the more you lose yourself. When you protect those who harm you, you betray yourself. Stoic interpretation. If someone repeatedly crosses your lines, manipulates your emotions, and makes you doubt your own worth, you have the right to walk away, not out of hate, but because you choose peace over chaos. Summary, peace is a right, not a favor. Boundaries are not walls that isolate. They are doors that lead to healthier relationships. They're how you tell the world, I deserve respect. I do not live to please everyone. I live according to my values. I don't need your approval to know I'm right. Your worth is not measured by how others treat you, but by how you allow them to treat you. Seneca, paraphrased. Conclusion: living truthfully and in peace. At this point, perhaps one thing has become clear to you. Not everyone who smiles at you is sincere. Not everyone who shows concern has good intentions. Not every closeness is worth holding on to in life. Today we've walked through 5 unmistakable signs of a toxic person, illuminated through the lens of Stoic philosophy. A summary of the 5 signs. Like a map for awareness. 1. False charm. They make you feel special, then quietly take center stage and manipulate the emotional space around you. 2. Lack of empathy. They don't care about your feelings. They laugh when you're in pain, stay silent when you succeed, and make you feel invisible. 3. Subtle manipulation. They make you question your memory, emotions, and self-worth. Every compliment and favor comes with an invisible price. 4. Silent control. They don't need to yell. They just need you to slowly lose the right to choose your friends, your free time, and even your own thoughts. 5. Systematic lying. They weave reality to their own benefit, creating a virtual world where you can no longer tell what's real and what's manipulation. Hard truths, but necessary ones. Not everyone deserves a place in your life. Not every relationship should be preserved simply for the sake of memories or loyalty. True love does not come with destruction. If a relationship makes you lose yourself, live in fear, or erode your sense of value, that is not love. That is dependency in the guise of emotion. Stoics do not glorify coldness or apathy. They simply emphasize, better to live rightly than to live comfortably. Better to stand strong alone than to be lost among the crowd. Peace, not a destination, but a daily choice. In this turbulent life, what you truly need is not everyone's approval, but inner peace. Do not let others disturb the peace within you. Marcus Aurelius. The Stoic does not seek victory or revenge. They seek self-mastery, stability in every thought, decision, and action. They don't let praise or criticism dictate their worth. They don't let lies obscure their intuition. They don't let temporary emotions destroy lifelong principles. Defend yourself with reason, not resentment. You don't need to get angry to prove your strength. You don't need to teach someone a lesson to feel right. You only need enough clarity to recognize who deserves to stay and enough strength to set a boundary and walk away if needed. Peace is the peak of self-control and virtue. Paraphrased from Marcus Aurelius. A final call. Live boldly and rightly. If you've read this far, it means you're serious about your own peace. You don't want to drift through toxic relationships. You don't want to be the person who just puts up with it. You want to live rightly, live truthfully, live with principles, and you are not alone. Start with small actions. Redefine boundaries in a relationship that exhausts you. Write down what makes you feel manipulated and commit to no longer accepting it. Stay close to those who make you feel like yourself, not those who make you feel like you have to perform to be accepted.